Hello and welcome to Night Talk. This is episode 3 on the Kap-dWa, starring Patron Thor. And then we have me, the Rocker. Fate 2250.
Welcome, welcome. We're on air, Night Talk. Today we are talking about the legendary Kap-dWa, as some either say or spell out Kap-dWa or K-A-P-D-W-A. Well, in their language of the Malay, which is in the Taiwanese area, Malaysia, it means two heads. And what Kap-dWa is it's a well-preserved remains of a 12-foot tall two-headed giant that currently resides in Baltimore, Maryland, some sideshow museum. Regarded as a real creature by some, the Homo giganticus, giant humans, if you will. Giants. Two giants have been around and seen since like the 1520s, the Magellan era. But Kap-dWa is somewhat of a giant, 12 foot tall. That's a little bit taller than the records of the 9 foot, 10 foot tall giants that you'd see in the records. But two heads is pretty common in a lot of mutated features of animals, and even sometimes, rarely, people. So it's a preserved body of it. Rumored that the Spanish sailors found them, finding Patagonia, which is in the very southeastern region of the South America. So right there at the bottom where Chile is, Chile and Argentina. Yeah, and that's what Patagonia is. And Patagonians are people, a tribe native to the land. And that's what it was, is a Patagonian giant, two heads. The Spanish sailors found him, saw him. There's some giants right there too. And at some point they decided to take the giant aboard, take it captive, if you will, on ship, and try to take it back to their homeland. Well, the version says that the Kap-dWa somehow escaped, got off the ship, broke free, and then was skewered by a pike in the heart, which that's what they show on the photos and videos. We saw the gap wound in their chest cavity. That's what they say it was from. Is it from a pike? Other versions say that it washed up on shore with a spear protruding from its chest, and the remains was brought back to Blackpool when a schooner captain named George Bickle caught wind of the remains and retrieved it. There really is no proof, digging deep into the actual proof that this captain existed. There's no records that he was actually alive, but it's just off-brand records, as you can say. And in the UK, the Kap-dWa made it to several sideshow appearances in the late 1800s, and further on, and then eventually made its way to America. And in the 1930s, it's rumored that two doctors and a radiologist inspected it in Weston and found no perceptual evidence of it being fake. And that goes into the whole conspiracy that if it's a rogue taxidermy, which, just like that mermaid thing that we saw the other day, rogue taxidermy is basically a bunch of pieces of animals or creatures or humans put together in a taxidermy. And if you don't know what taxidermy is, it's when a deceased animal, or you kill an animal and you basically preserve the whole body, stuff it or whatever you put inside of it, where the whole animal is there. And rogue taxidermy is when you do a bunch of animals put together to make some one form of creature. And so the whole conspiracy about the rogue taxidermy is that there's a website that is called sideshowworld.com, and there's an article about the Kap-dWa, and in the advertisement for this very kind of taxidermy, complete with this pitch, and I quote, "Supply House Special Attraction, King Macadula and the Two-Headed Patagonia Giant. A whole show, a big classy attraction, made so legs come off at the waist so as to ship in a box 5 by 2 by 1 and 1/2 foot. An old body dress covers where legs come off. It's a winner, a money getter." And like with all, and that's the quote, and like all cryptids, there is that conspiracy rumor that all of them are somewhat made up for the fact to gain money off of a hoax, like to have stores. Like, I know when the El Chupacabra started coming out, I mean, stores and movies and all this merchandise started going up for it. Same with Bigfoot and all these other cryptids and mythological creatures.
The Chupacabra would be like part alien.
Yeah, and some places literally rely on these myths and legends to produce a great income for their community. So, of course, there's this hoax, and with that page, who knows if someone actually made that to make a hoax, like hoaxing a hoax. I don't know if that's a thing, you hoax a hoax. You know what I mean? Or if it's like a real thing, and it could be real and it could be fake. But, you know, giants actually date back in scriptures all the way back past the 1520s, even with Magellan in the 1520s, where these scientists of the time, which were adventurers and the surveyors who would actually, for the kings and the people, go out and survey the land and record it on map, actually created words on the map that says the lands of the giants, you know, in the maps. And so maps were created where it specified where these giants lived, and all kinds of history recordings off-brand and actually credible publicized that these giants existed all over. Sometimes it falls into the whole Bigfoot thing because of the reddish hair. There's at times a lot of these things they say that they have reddish hair. These giants have reddish somewhat hair, which has always been interesting because if you can always try to like tie them together in a weird way. But if you look at the pictures of the Kap-dWa, it really looks like a burnt body. I don't know if you've seen it. I don't know if anyone else has seen it that we're talking to. But it really looks like it's burnt. And unless you were really right there looking at it and lift the loincloth and lift the clothing and see it for yourself, 50% says it's real, 50% says it could be a hoax. But I am a strong believer in giants myself. Even we watched a video today that proved one man could easily move blocks of stone weighing more than the average house, and with or without giants. But I still believe in giants just for the fact there are skeletal remains, and bones are pretty hard to make, you know, if they're authentic. And that's pretty much all I got about the Kap-dWa so far. And you know, I've been really researching it and went down deep. You know, and so it's going to take some more researching to really figure out, you know, maybe even have to travel and go see it for ourselves in Baltimore or wherever, just to really get a glimpse of it.
So the Kap-dWa
Yep.
is a two-headed giant.
Yeah.
So, and since you said it was like other animals had, you know, two-headed syndromes, I think there was a scientific term called sonic hedgehog disorder. It's a genetic, it actually works in the DNA strands, and it replicates.
Yeah.
Like certain portions of it, and it'll create a second head, maybe a second eye.
Yeah.
Other body parts.
Kind of like morphing, or what they do with the rats and mutation, like stem cell research.
And so there was like a civilization of them. Like they like, I wonder how they like would.
Yeah, and you know, that's another thing is even dating to the Viking explorers earlier than Christopher Columbus and all these Magellan people, that they like the Patagonians themselves. So, you know, a lot of the explorers at this time, granted, take knowledge that they were about my height. They were between 7'6" and 7'9", 7'10", 11. Rarely ever getting up to 6 foot. These Europeans and even Spanish. But even still, there were a whole tribe, not just one, but a whole tribe of these Patagonians, where the women were as much as tall as past 6.5, 6 feet. And the men up to 7. I mean, it's outstanding, and these were notable, documented facts that are actually, they're proven, they're real, they're facts. And so it's interesting that you brought that up because it almost seems
like this one's actually just plausible. Like it can.
Yeah.
This is a real thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you know, it's interesting because you look at our world now. We've been, I don't know if you want to call it brainwashed or programmed into living a certain way and believing in certain things. I want to mention this just with the whole thing of how people react to things. I heard today that a friend of mine was at a fair, and he was talking to a religious group, and he had mentioned scientifically about sperms and eggs. And well, they had to ask him to leave because they couldn't handle it. And that's my point, is we've been programmed to be a certain way where we can't handle the truth. And so, of course, you talk about giants and stuff to people and they freak out.
I think that just might be like the millennials in general.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And it's like, don't get me wrong, like, millennials are millennials, whatever.
It is what it is.
Yeah. If they refuse to know scientifically what sperm and eggs do, what literally their bodies do.
Yeah, or like consider it, it's a fact, we should. There's a reason why kids are having kids at such a young age, is because they don't educate themselves about this stuff, and they
either that or they're just dropouts. Like their parents just never decided to take them to school. They homeschool them.
I mean, it's not even. I know a lot of people homeschool that are smart. It's about the schooling itself, the teachings itself. I myself had a very horrible time in school for the fact that down south in Arizona, the teachers aren't paid well. They pretty much. I mean, I had an English teacher who directly told us she did not like kids, but yet she was an English teacher.
Yeah.
And so that's how it was. But anyways, it comes down to education, and whether or not you want to believe in giants or not, whether or not you want to believe in a god or not. To me, to you, to our followers, it's fact. The evidence is there, the bones are there. And then again, like we said on our other episode, if it is a hoax, if it is made up, why? What's the purpose? Why make us think? Why make us go into full depth of investigation and time and money spent just to find out the truth of these kind of stuff? Why? And giants kind of pertain to a lot of things in history, in Egypt, not just in UK or South America, but all over the world. I'm talking from the Arctic, from North Pole to the South Pole. And it's insane how widely spread they're talked about, but at the same time, they're hardly acknowledged. And you see people nowadays that are tall, and quite honestly, they stand out. To me, they stand out. And you almost have to ask, with the bloodlines, are the people here tall, not just the genetic order from their mother and father, but actually carry a bloodline of giants that used to live? And I always find myself asking myself that every time I see them. But as far as two-headed giants, Kap-dWa is one of the only actually preserved records of ever being like that, and that really helps people say it's a hoax, just for the fact that, I mean, how do you get that to happen?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But people just sometimes they don't understand that. Like we were talking about genetic mutations. You see it in snakes, mice,
any form
even
of
cows, cats. I remember as a kid in school we were shown those things. I don't know if you ever saw them, but like they bring in the jar, and you'd see like the two-headed kitten or the three-headed, two-headed snake, and you know what I mean, like all those weird little animals in jars, a two-headed shark even.
So it's possible that the Kap-dWa is a real thing, genetically proven.
Yeah.
And then with just because animals also have that same, they can have that happen. It's like a 1 in, for people, it's like 1 in 2,000 or 1 in 3,000.
Exactly. And like I always say, if animals can do it, we can do it. We're all one. We're a part of this earth. And each and every one of us has certain different qualities and characteristics that benefit this earth. Nowadays it's a little far-stretched because we live in a world where it's not like a tribe anymore, and people argue that, but I mean, if you're working for a corporation, you're making that corporation money. You're making one person a bunch of money to just go home every day and keep living your life and doing the same thing, versus if you lived in an actual tribe, everything you do and everything they do benefits everybody equally. Not just, oh, this guy gets more food. The tribe in Africa, they'll come back home with 3 little tiny rodents no bigger than a hair that we have out here in Arizona, and they literally will cook as much as they can from all 3 of those rodents, and they will spread it among the tribe equally, starting out with the children first and then the women and then the males. But they spread it out. It could be 30 people stretching out basically what would be like 3 hamburgers to us, you know? And it's insane, and that's how people used to live versus nowadays, you know, where it's...
Food is just processed. Like, you go to... your instinct to hunt is gone.
It's totally gone.
And the only way to actually get that back is by going out into the wilderness.
Yep.
You know, with basically nothing except for maybe your 1 weapon of choice, 2, 3.
I would say to really, you know, as far as the futuristic survival goes, I consider going out into the wilderness with, you can pretty much, as long as it has to do with survival. I always say never take, if you're really wanting to get a full experience, never take a phone. Don't take technology that they didn't have back then. If you take a gun, that protrudes to the, let's see, when they started making guns back in what, 1600s, 1700s?
I would make it like a form of a pilgrimage then. Like,
well, I mean, you can take anything. You can even go with a crossbow. It could be a modern day crossbow, but if it weren't for the old designs of the old ancient crossbows, we wouldn't have our crossbows nowadays. So I consider if you take a gun or a crossbow or bow, knives, I just consider don't take phones, don't take a computer,
don't take something technology that
don't take something that you're gonna rely on and depend on that will just at any point give out. A gun normally won't give out on you as long as you have a bullet and the gun's not broken or jammed or anything. It's not going to give out on you. It's gonna work for you every time. You know, and that's another thing is we nowadays rely on all this technology.
Yeah, we're kind of just babied now. We're with all the information that literally would take forever to get across from the world.
Oh yeah.
You have knowledge beyond capabilities, but nobody really uses it.
Exactly, and you know, I myself, I don't like technology. You know, I find myself using it just because we live in the world of it. But at the same time, if it wasn't for this YouTube and the PS4 and the mic and the everything, we wouldn't be getting our word across, and we wouldn't have a little night show.
That
you know, and that's exactly the point. Is we can have it, we can use it, but we can't take it for granted, and we shouldn't abuse it.
We just live day by day.
Exactly. You know, just
do what you want to do in that day.
And that's also a great way is, you know, with these cryptids is, with the World Wide Web, we can not only research it, we can find inputs that other people do, and I know with a couple other cryptids that we're going to get into later in a couple episodes, there's so much about it. I mean, there's so much reports of it and evidence that's untalked about, uncovered, that, you know, you see these shows that always make me question with the hoaxing and everything, like these shows they make hunting, like Ghost Hunters and finding Bigfoot, and, you know, I want to believe they're real, but at the same time, I call them out. You know, I say if this is the real deal, I personally think that a lot of these animals and creatures are smart enough to understand what we got going on in this world, and of course they're not going to come out when you have a camera going on. And
I would, if I was that cryptid, I would just pose. I would just
right, do a little quick pose. What was that challenge thing that they did? The planking or whatever.
Yeah, owling, planking.
Just randomly do a plank right in the middle, not walking.
Whatever
across
form
the road.
of pose. The
Iron
thinker,
Man pose. Oh yeah, the thinker would be a great one.
The thinker is a classic one.
Imagine getting a picture of Sasquatch doing the thinker. You know, or even a giant.
Bunny ears.
You know,
that's one.
Also, you know, with the Egyptians, they rumored that. You know, actually, before I say that, I'm going back far. I'm going back to the Triassic and Jurassic and Cretaceous period.
Yeah. Where
our ozone was a lot different, and it was a thing, and that's why dinosaurs were so large, is because everything was large. Everything was on a grander scale. Trees would, I mean, we have trees 200 feet now. Imagine a tree 400 to 600 feet tall.
Well, it produced way more oxygen.
Oh,
just
yeah.
way more for them.
A huge, so it's not unreasonable.
Like one way that the dinosaurs could have, gone extinct was based on the agriculture.
Yeah. That, or it could have been, I watched a video about what would happen if a piece of sun actually reached the earth. A small, tiny, I'm talking about what we consider like a dollar bill. If an actual piece of the sun actually touched the earth, it basically did what the meteor does. It just, everything on fire, everything, and that could explain why there aren't as many dinosaur bones as there should be, compared to the amount of dinosaurs that there are reported to be. But like I was saying, going back to it, if the ozone the way it was, and the pH of blood levels that were, and oxygen, and everything was larger, there is no reason why humans, when we start evolving from Homo sapiens and Neanderthals, that there were some that were a lot larger than others. Just like there were some brachiosaurs and brontosaurs. They were both the same thing, but they were different sizes. So it really, there's really no hiding it. It's very, very likely that these giants existed, and which makes it a lot more likelier that there was this rare mutational occurrence with Kap-dWa, giving it two heads. Especially a part of a Patagonian tribe that in the past had reportedly been all giants. They were all big.
Yeah.
Some of these kids that were in their teens were as big as a full-grown, not even a teen, maybe even a younger than a teen, a preteen, or let's just say an 8-year-old kid being as big as we are.
So like about 5-6 feet.
Yeah. And imagine seeing that as a full-grown adult, and you're just like, oh my gosh. And so, of course, we write them as the way we do in books, and some things are depicted a little bit different than others, and there's different versions and scenarios of it. But of course, it's going to be like that with so many different. How do you?
We have record history of one of the first men ever recorded was about 12 feet.
Yeah. And that's, I don't know if you've ever been in a gymnasium, in a basketball court, but the average standard hoops height is 10 feet. So if you go into a gymnasium and you stand near that, that's 10 feet. Imagine 2 more feet, that's 12 feet. And so if you can range between even 8 feet and we'll go with 15 feet or whatever you said, and that's high, that's tall, like that's extremely tall. And that wouldn't be uncommon if you look back in our history of how this earth was, and how people lived, and animals lived, and creatures lived. And as far as we know, we can't say it doesn't exist, and we can't say it can, because we can only go with what we're given and what we see. And like I said, if what we see is true, then there's no reasonable doubt that it's true. You know what I mean?
I go with the one saying, do not believe anything you hear, and believe half of what you see.
Yeah, basically treat everything as a rumor until you know for sure, and that can take many, 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 many years. If not forever, and you just die without really knowing. That's pretty much how our world is nowadays with, for all we know, the truth isn't even the truth. And it's also rumored that giants in general were extraterrestrial superpower beings that have either been placed here.
So the Princess Diary would not count for that giant if he was an alien, right?
I'm trying to remember.
Because they had the fencer, the giant, and the brains.
In the Princess Diaries?
Yes. Or the Princess Bride, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
I was like, which movie? Because I know there's a Princess Diaries.
Yes, there is a Princess Diaries.
I was like, I don't remember a giant.
I've probably never seen that movie.
I have.
I've just mistaken it for Princess Bride.
Princess Diaries, off topic here, is about a princess who doesn't know she's a princess, but then finds out she's a princess, and that's what that's about. Princess Bride does have a giant, Andre the Giant, and look at him. Look at that man himself. Yes. That is a huge
and he is a wrestler.
That other than that, wrestling, you know,
Yeah,
it's a career, it's a job.
Well, besides that, that's like
Entertainment. What is this?
Khajiit's
That
lands.
freaked me out. I didn't know what was happening. I saw a group running through the wilderness. Didn't know if I was about to be attacked.
So back to the crypto part of the Kap-dWa.
Let's go find some giants.
Yep. Okay. There's a giants thing right up ahead.
Straight ahead. So Kap-dWa, just so people know, like I said earlier, if in Malay language, which is the Malaysian tribes, means two heads, and that's basic. You have a two-headed giant. What are you going to call it? Two heads.
Yeah.
And so that's what Kap-dWa means. In realistic terms, it's a giant.
Yeah.
Just for everyone listening right now, if you have, you know, you hear Kap-dWa, it's not a specific giant. It just means two-headed giant, two heads. So giants in general, like I was saying, dude, they date back so far and wide stretched. It's not in one area. It's everywhere, and it would not. It's not hard to put the pieces together, saying, you know what, this is a real thing. This is a real thing. These are real. Just like we talk about all our creatures, we have to acknowledge it at least a little bit. You know, we can't go around pretending like it doesn't exist. You know, because one day we might find out that it does exist, and if you're unprepared, you're gonna poo bricks, and you're not gonna know what to think, and you're gonna question everything that you were taught and told. And you might not even survive that. You could go into a whole mental breakdown. You know, people freak out over holidays and seasons and stuff. You know, I don't know what would happen if some religious person who won't accept this stuff, or even, he doesn't have to be religious, someone who doesn't accept this stuff sees it. You know, say I didn't believe in Sasquatch and I go out camping and I see Sasquatch. You don't know what to think at that point. You're just like, I'm wrong. Everything I've thought and said is wrong. I don't know what else is true and what isn't. You know, and that's what people forget to think about. And so by acknowledging it beforehand, you know, I'm sure if I believe in Sasquatch and Bigfoot and giants. If I ever see one, I'm probably not going to freak out, just because I'm going to be like, wow, I'm right. I've been right, you know?
I'd be like, okay, you're right. Now let's run.
Yeah,
because
man.
that thing is just going to come after us.
I don't know. Do you run or do you hide?
I would run. I would run.
At that point, what do you do?
Run downhill. I find a hill.
Run downhill. Now, going into physics, I do believe playing Skyrim that we've come to the conclusion that running. Did you say downhill or uphill?
Well, downhill, because you got to think of it like a bear, because it's ginormous.
No.
Trying to stumble and everything.
Bears running downhill is a horrible idea. You're supposed to run.
No, because they struggle to keep up their speed.
I guess. I don't know. I don't know if you've ever watched a bear run down a hill, but it's pretty scary.
You don't want to go uphill. They have more control, so it's.
You don't want to run. Honestly, as a wilderness person, you don't want to run. You want to fight it. That's all I can say is I wouldn't run uphill or downhill. I would fight it to the death, because at that point, you can't outrun a bear. Maybe even in the woods, if it wants you, if it's going that length to follow you like that, it's going to track you. And I don't know, just like giants, you know, we're talking
like I said,
highly intelligence.
You know, if you run down a steep hill, like if it already knows it's going to come after you, you don't want to climb a tree. You want to run.
Yeah.
Like, if it already has its attention on you, you run downhill, it'll struggle and roll down.
And what about you struggling? What if you fall and tumble?
You better have that
you
agile,
trip and slip. I mean,
you better have that survivalist where, like, yes, you're going to die if you fuck up once.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's like, you know, there's other ways too. Like, hopefully
you don't run into a bear that you get like that. It's off topic, but it really isn't, because cryptozoology and zoology are very, very similar, and if you can think about it, it's all tied into the same thing, you know, evolution and adaptation. I think that once we were all part of the same tribe, if you will, we were all part of this earth. Earth was our tribe. Everything and everyone had an understanding of everything and everyone. And some were prey, some were predators, some were neutral. And these giants are always neutral until you attack them. So without a weapon, I'm gonna walk up to one, and obviously he's angry. There goes that whole rumor about them being peaceful giants. And this is probably what it was like when the giant tribes first saw man.
And they played baseball with your corpse.
Oh my lord. No, that was a simulation of what happened when the white men attacked the giant tribes. And then thus we attacked them, putting them into vast extinction.
So, moving on from the Kap-dWa.
Uh-huh.
I've been holding out this epic mythos.
What do you mean?
Yeah. Have you ever... This is on Viking mythology.
Okay.
Yes. And...
Viking,
Yes.
Ah!
Viking mythology.
Uh-huh.
And I told you I wasn't going to say anything. I wasn't going to bring it up.
Yeah, you've been building the suspense.
I've been building
you told me yesterday after our episode, too, about the swan maidens that you were going to talk about some, but you didn't tell me what it was, and you weren't going to tell me until now, so
yeah.
I think I've been waiting good enough. What is it?
What is it? It is the legendary Rocknir.
Rocknir. Now, what is that? I don't know. What is that?
Imagine a dragon.
Okay.
But not just any dragon.
Uh-huh.
With a lion head.
A dragon
with a lion
head.
And every time it makes a step, it causes earthquakes. Its mane causes thunderstorms and lightning.
Wow, so it's pretty much a god at that point.
Yeah, it is one of the starting things of Ragnarok. Like, he is the warning that the end is near.
Yeah. So basically he has the powers to flood the lands and shake the earth.
Yes.
Wow, and Rocknir. I've never heard about that. I can't believe I have not heard about that.
Odin couldn't even best him. They were
Odin?
Equal power.
Wow. Wow, I had no clue about that. So where does it take place in Nordic times or?
Yeah, Nordic, like right during the times of Odin, right after he got his horse. So back then, he would be the warning sign for, like I said, technically Armageddon, the end of days, kind of like the four horsemen.
So if Rocknir's around, that means your world's about to be rocked.
Yeah, it's the end.
The end.
You're near it, boom, an earthquake. Lightning strikes all. It is judgment. And they don't see, like, you as, like, sinning as whatever religious sort of view.
It's just everyone, everything?
Yes.
Wow. So that kind of dates back to the giants, too. Do you think that Rocknir, is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, Rocknir.
Rocknir, how do you spell that?
Rockner.
Okay.
IR.
And do you think that they could have been... I don't know that... Who's to say that the dinosaurs and whatever, all these things did not go extinct because of Rocknir? What if Rocknir was that reason, that meteorite that we, claim took out the dinosaurs and took us into a whole new era? What if that was Rocknir? You know what? That's my question right now. Is what if that was Rocknir? What if these natural disasters?
Oh shit!
Laser down. We've been having some weird occurrences with one of our lasers here in the studio. What is it, 92?
Yeah, Studio 92.
And
we've been having.
I don't know how to describe it.
Paranormal stuff. Like we have our light system on and everything.
Yeah, Fate pointed it out to me a few days ago, and I came up with a scientifical explanation of it. Well, right now
I fight it every time.
The piece just popped off. The piece popped off.
It's been a few days.
How do you describe it? The laser itself?
Well, it's just a spinning party light. You get it online. Like,
imagine a spinning sphere that projects lasers out yonder, and it swivels and turns. Now imagine the front plastic piece that is screwed in just pops off. Now I've only seen this once, and right now is the second time. You know, and like we said with the whole, dare I say its name, Skinwalker, I had to say it quick. You know, this is native land. There have been weird occurrences. I do hear knocks and stuff on my RV. I know when I've been in the woods and stuff, I hear weird sounds like the whole Bigfoot and Sasquatch thing. So, you know, we get our own tastes of crypto and mythical, legendary beings and forces that sometimes we ourselves can't explain. So that's just what happened right now. That way all you listening know what just happened. We were going to bring it part of our show at one point with the whole extraterrestrial spirit ghost later. That's later on. That might be episode
I was
season 2
like,
maybe.
For the entire 24 to like 30 hours of me not telling you about Rocknear, I also had a thought of telling a ghost story, and that would have been perfect.
Well, let's hear it. Now that light happened, I mean, to me, that's a sign that we have to hear this ghost story.
Okay. So this is something that actually happened, at least in my eyes it did. So I was about 10 years old. I was living in Arizona. Very first home that I've ever known.
Yeah.
Okay, so
let me get around a campfire.
There's a perfect campfire right there. But it was the middle of the night. I was watching. It was just me, my mom, and my brother, my twin brother. And what happened was they were asleep, and in this house, beforehand, I must say that there was a tiny Ouija board that was thrown on top of our roof.
Oh, jeez, I don't even play with those.
And you know, neither did I. I didn't even know what it was at the time, but there was a name written in it. And a crow literally died on that roof, and say, literally 2 days later, after that.
Oh my gosh.
This was a time of like.
Talk about coincidences.
Yeah, exactly, coincidences. But anyway, I'm the only one awake at the time. It is dark. It is probably around midnight, maybe 1-2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. And
I'm watching this movie, VHS, called Toad and Frog. And it had this multiple different little episodic stuff.
Yeah.
And I felt this chill right behind me.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to look back. I didn't. Even now, I kind of wish I never did. But if I had to point out, when you enter into the house, you start with this giant living room.
Okay.
And to the right of you is, a little hallway kind of thing.
Yeah.
You got the master bedroom for the parents. You had my sister's room, or my older brother's room later on. The bathroom to the left of that. And then on the other side would be the kitchen, dining area, and then my room.
Yeah. Mine
and my twin brothers / older brothers, when we all lived in pretty much one room.
Yeah. Which
was, normal. It was fine. But in this instance, my sister and my older brother weren't there at the time. I don't remember where they were.
Yeah.
But
they just, a long time ago.
It was. But I can remember that when I looked behind me, it was this hooded skeleton figure.
Yeah.
And me, I just stared. I stared for a good long while.
Oh wow. That gave me goosebumps.
And well, here's the thing that it actually did. It stared at me because it was in front of my sister / older brother's room.
Yeah.
At that time. And it had its right hand calling me.
Like with the finger.
Just with movement. The finger, like very slowly, just saying, "Come to me."
Oh Lord.
And for that instance, in that moment, I contemplated: do I face fear to a demon, to
whatever,
death itself?
Yeah, whatever it is.
And what I did was, I turned my head. I turned my head and I continued to watch Frog and Toad.
Basically ignoring and avoiding it.
Not even ignoring. I accepted that.
Well, accepted and acknowledged, but just basically.
But what happened?
The other cheek, I guess.
Well, I continued to look behind me.
Oh, okay.
For the same reason that, would it come closer?
Mm-hmm.
Would it do something to... Because what was in the living room was a couch bed. And
Okay,
my mom my
out.
mom and my brother would... You know, we were there. We were sleeping in the living room at the time.
Yeah.
Like, my mom was worried about something. I don't know what it was. It was
you could
during
feel
the
you
time.
knew that it was something.
But it didn't happen. But to me, that at that moment, it wasn't like a demonic thing.
Uh-huh.
I thought it was a sign of caution, a sign of warning.
Like a warning,
Yeah.
a pre-warning.
That there was something that was going to happen, and you needed to go. And I think about a month later, this is elementary school, around like third grade.
Uh-huh.
I move out. Like my grandmother took me in.
Mm-hmm.
My brother didn't want to come with me, so he stayed with my mom.
Yeah.
So, and that was kind of a weird kind of turning point, because I'd go to school and he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom would move from the house to an apartment or to some other
back
form.
and forth.
Yeah,
or
back and
like
forth.
That. Wow.
And that was probably right where the end of the horror story part. But the only horror part was knowing the fact that there's something right behind you.
Yeah, that
and
you can't explain or
it feels like it's always watching.
Mm-hmm. Wow. See, I've never, knock on wood here. I've never really had that many bad spiritual encounters like that. Mine have always been physical, and when I'm out in the woods, and my beliefs of what they call Bigfoot or Sasquatch. I have encountered some just weird things, like I said earlier, the knocks on my RV.
Yeah.
That night, the first episode, we were going to talk about the SWs. We'll just call them right now. Obviously, right now I'm freaked out.
Well, you've already said it. Like, once
I don't want to say it twice.
Once you said it, you've made the call. Like,
it is what it is. Whatever the SWs and see, that's the thing, is I've never said it before, and these knockings have been happening for months. Before I even met you. So, if by saying its name I made the call, there's already been the call, because it's been trying to communicate in some form. That's what the whole knocking thing is. And because of that, you can ask Fate here. I was like, we're not talking about it publicly like that on the radio. We're not going to go into depth right now.
No,
we'll subject ourselves to a future in the future with subscribes. But yeah, those types of paranormal interactions are just, a lot of people don't get it when they just hear the stories and they've never had the experience for themselves.
Yeah.
But when you've had a weird experience that you can't explain.
Well, that wasn't the only paranormal encounter that I've had that was weird.
Yeah, you've had more.
I've had about one when I was about 15 to 16. I got kicked out of my grandparents' place.
Uh-huh.
I moved in with my mom and my dad.
Yeah.
And it was in town.
Mm-hmm.
Nice little trailer. The person that owned it passed away.
Yeah.
In the trailer.
Uh-huh.
Her cat was the only one that was there. We took in the cat. It was always an inside cat. It never went outside.
Never.
Until we lived there.
Uh-huh.
And it always got confused and always wanted to go in and then out. And it was a hunter.
So it wanted to be out, but it was an inside cat.
Yeah. But that's not the paranormal part. So I would be in there, in my room, and my sister was there at the time.
Uh-huh.
She supposedly saw me.
Saw you?
Yes, outside, walking out into the street, like leaving the property, and I walk out of the bedroom, and she's like, "How the fuck did you do that?" And I'm like, "Do what?" And she's like, "Just walk out there and come out of your room."
That's weird, man. That's like that Slender Man stuff we saw.
And that wasn't even like, the footsteps that you'd hear, and it'd just be me. Or the voices, because I'd hear my mom.
Yeah.
My mom would be at work, and all you'd hear is that echoed, fate. And I turn around.
Her saying
yes,
your name.
Her saying my name and everything. And
as most kids know, even in the animal kingdom, parents and children, and most animals at least, but in humans always, you have that deep connection where, I mean, you can be blindfolded and be somewhere and have 3 different women say your name, or however, and you'll know which one is your mom just because it's your mom and you're used to it. You've been
know the voice. You know it. By
just
instinct.
like animals, when they know they could be blind, but they know their mom. Just by instinct. So wow, that's crazy.
And then I had this one, and this is like the last experience that I'm probably going to talk about, is where it'd just be me. Everyone would be asleep, and I would be the only one probably trying to sleep. It would be hard enough trying to sleep enough as it was.
Yeah.
And there'd be this blue light, because my mom would leave the TV on just for a light.
Just for like what people do for either sound or.
It would just be just a light, like a blue light on a channel. And no sound, no nothing. It would just be used as in like she'd be in her room.
You know what I mean though? Like some people, in order to sleep, they have the TV on for light, or the TV on for sound, just to have in the background.
Yeah. Exactly.
White noise. What do they call it?
White noise. But
or
she
white,
would be.
white
but she
light.
would be in. Yeah, but she'd be in her room sleeping. I would stare at my door, and the only reason I would stare at my door was because you'd see footsteps, like the actual shadow.
The shadows of them.
And the door would actually try to open.
Like the jiggling.
Yeah,
of the
not even like a jiggling or knock. It would turn. It would turn. But it would not open the door. It would not.
That's creepy.
And then after that moment, I would look out the window. And something behind me, no shit, said, "What are you looking at?"
Oh my god.
And I jumped. I didn't scream. I didn't say. I just stayed in silence.
Well, I could only imagine being, because I've been in a few spots in my life where you're either focused on something or not focused on something.
Well, I thought there was
and
a
you
sound
hear
outside.
something or feel something, and no one will be around, so you basically lose control of what other people think, and that's where the jolting happens, or the jumping, or the you don't scream out like ah.
No,
it's more of a frightened. Something's there, but you didn't think it. You know that nothing else is there, but something's there real quick, and that's what startles you, and that's what freaks you out. I've been there. I got the.
And I would jump, and I jumped from right where, because my bed would be next to the window.
Okay, yeah.
And I would jump from the stand up, like facing the window position, into the bed, stare out to the door, because that's where the sound from where the back of my ear was on the left side, and that was in the direct vicinity of the door. So when I stared, it was there, and I tried. I was
the door.
Yeah.
Man, the way you describe it, it's like I'm there right now. I can feel it.
But my mom,
goosebumps.
My mom told me that there was a spirit, was there. It was a person. It was a shadow figure with a baller cap, and those are shadow demons.
Oh.
They are malicious. They're not to the point of poltergeists.
A little like off-brand, maybe.
Like if you something that knows of your existence, it doesn't want to like destroy your life,
but just make you like trip out about things.
Exactly, and it would end at that moment. My girlfriend at the time would say the same thing. At one point, she was with me, and it was the middle of the night. I saw a different face from staring at her.
Oh,
and
wow.
Like, it was the most horrifying thing. And I had to push her back. And her face changed back to her normal face in that instant.
So you saw her...
I saw her
as a different... Her.
No, I saw
her as
like
a different it.
Yeah, something completely
her as
different.
an it.
Like a witch of like some magnitude. It was not
bizarre.
human. And it took the fate. It just like it was on her face. So I had to push her back because it was just the middle of the night. And I was trying to tell her that, and she told me she saw the baller cap figure in the room.
Oh no, that's creepy.
And it
was this here in this town?
Yeah.
To our viewers, I don't want to give a lot of info. I'll give you this. we're in the northern western part of Arizona. You get the gist. This town, maybe we'll release what town we're in later on, but it's known to have a lot of spiritual encounters, mythical encounters. It was a pioneer town, and so these stories that you hear from Fate here, I listen to and I remarkably believe in because I haven't had my experiences with them, but I have talked to many people who share bizarre, unexplainable stories of encounters and experiences here, especially in this town and in this region. You know, and so your story, wow. Is there any more to it? I mean,
when it came down to it, like, she would see stuff that I couldn't. Like,
okay.
she'd be like a medium kind of thing. She'd be able to see.
So she had that kind of gift. I mean,
I
believe that at one point everyone
I
had this
doubted
gift,
it.
but...
I doubted it for so long.
Uh-huh.
You know, and you know, there's still some points where I am a skeptic about it. You know,
well, you almost kind of have to be. Like, you have to at least have a percentage of you that says, you know what, this is bull.
Yeah, you know, there is that. But there was the line where, you know, my best friend at the time, like, he had lost his, you know, he had a dog.
Yeah.
And it would, you know, it passed away. And the dog was following him everywhere he went.
The spirit, or
the spirit itself? The spirit itself would follow my best friend around, and she would see it, but she did not mention it.
Mm-hmm.
And she, you know, at one
I mean, that'd
point,
be kind of hard to mention it.
well, she didn't want to mention it at the time, but she did. She did tell him, and he, you know, the breed of the dog, the name of the dog,
mm-hmm.
and I don't remember the name or the breed.
Okay.
But she would name it, and he was like flipping out because he always felt like there was a presence of something.
Yeah, the dog.
Yeah. But now that he knew that, it was just like he was more accepting to it.
Yeah. Wow, that's weird.
But I'm always like I have to be a partial skeptic because unless I can see it with my eyes.
Well, I mean that's what I say about everything. Every cryptid that is out there, you know, it's a lot of me wants to believe in it, but at the same time, I have to have that percentage that says, you know what, this very well could be just misrepresented, unexplainable, but at the same time explainable as a hoax, fake. But then you know, there's that thing where it's like, you know, you have all these people that you know or don't know who share their experiences and stories via social media or campfire stories or passed down in scriptures and writings that you gotta question. You say, hey, there's just the coincidentalness of all this does not make sense, but it does. If it makes sense, it means that it does exist. If it doesn't make sense, then it means it's either a hoax, someone's creating it, something's creating it,
or it's something that we just don't understand yet.
Exactly. So I mean, there's a lot that we don't even understand about our own.
No, we don't even know much about our own planet, let alone like its own oceans, the moon that literally gravitates around us.
Yeah. Or I mean, there's I know up north of the Canada area, like actual cities and stuff, Saskatchewan. I don't know how to pronounce them, but literally the deep woods that are, you know, they say Alaska's the last frontier. No, these places north of Canada are the last frontier. They are untouched 100%. No power lines, no gas lines. They are untouched. You know, and that's our own Earth. That's where we live. This is where we live, and we haven't even explored all that. Like you said, the oceans. What right, what power do we have to say none of this exists? Is we don't. That's where the whole conspiracy thing comes in. What if the government or extraterrestrial high-powered being, whatever it is either creating these things to project onto the world to make people think or be crazy, or are they doing, you know, that's the real question. Why, when, where, how, why, and when, all of the 5 or 6 of those things, you know, why would they be doing that? And that makes me think, well, it's either real or it's either fake. I want to believe it's real just because not only is it, I guess you could say, cool, but it's a lot more to life than we live now. You know, a lot of our life basis now is work, make money to pay the bills, to buy food.
You're more like paying to. You're not living.
You're working.
You're paid to
you're
live.
working to basically live to die.
Yeah.
Because when you die, in this
you
world
save up
nowadays,
for your retirement, which it's like you don't live your youth.
You know, and that's the thing is, it's weird. A lot of people became wealthy because of poverty, and a lot of people take the money and everything for granted once they get into it. You know, just like with the whole cryptozoology, they don't want to accept it because they either fear it or it's just too far from their comprehension to say, you know what, I'm going to take a second to think and talk about this. You know, they'd rather just say, nope, it doesn't exist. I'm throwing that out of the bucket. It's gone. You know, and go back to their little la-la world where, you know, we had an X10 solar flare happening, and I mentioned this to a few of my friends and family, and they said, what is that?
Well, I had to ask, like, what was that? Because
an X10 solar flare, X10, they're X9, X8, X7, all the way down to X1 up to X20 are ratios and levels of, I guess you can call the radio,
waves, right?
The classes of the sun waves, of the radioactiveness of it. You know, like I was saying with the sun, if you put a piece of the sun on the earth, bad stuff will happen. Stuff will start disintegrating up in flames, and you have. I mean, it's basically like a volcano times a billion. I mean, they were throwing out numbers as to the degrees of Fahrenheit and Celsius of how hot the outer level of the sun is compared to the inner, and the outer was like. I want to say the numbers were between like 15,000 something degrees Fahrenheit. That's like beyond our freaking like we can't do that on Earth. You know, so that's what I was meaning is the X10 solar flare. They didn't even talk about it on the news, the mainstream news, or you know, like my friends, I was saying they had no clue about it, and I didn't know about it until a neighbor told me, who really digs deep into these offshore information places, information websites that aren't talked about on the mainstream media, and it's like, you know, if that's the way that is, then of course all these cryptids and everything are going to be talked about the way they are, and they make these little fake TV shows to get people thinking about it. And you know, what would the populace think if you know, in science they don't want to classify these as existing?
Well, it's kind of hard. You know, at one point they did exist because they, you know, yes, in theory they shouldn't, but prehistorically, you know, they in comparison, they're based upon real fossils.
Yeah, and
or missing links to our humankind.
They have never. I don't know about you, but all the folks at home, if you're on YouTube, if you watch TV, you must know about Shark Week and the Discovery Channel, where, you know, they go into weeks about certain stuff, aliens, Bigfoot, El Chupacabra. Well, I can tell you now, you know, on the cryptids they do cover, with the Sasquatch, I'm going to tell you right now, Washington Army Reserve, literally in their flora and fauna and floral books, listed Sasquatch as an existing being, but at the same time the Governmental Science Foundation, or whatever committee they have, declassified it. It's not a real thing. But at the same time, our own military people, in their own personal, this is what's around, list it as an actual creature.
Well, that's where, like, you know, the hoaxes and ideas, if it does exist.
But that's the thing is they didn't talk about that on the Bigfoot Week, like it's Shark Week, but Bigfoot Week, they don't mention it in those, or Finding Bigfoot. They don't put those things in that. I found this out through an offshore information site, and it just blows my mind that they don't, just like in school, they don't talk about certain things, and you find it out later, where it's like, you have to question everything, what you heard and what you know, you know? And that's the same with these giants and what was the Rocknear. And even with your story, I don't know if that has to do with Slenderman, or, you know, I don't know what figure that was. That's the first I've heard of that.
What I thought it was it's like like I said, the shadow figures or shadow men. They're just there. They're malicious spirits.
Mm-hmm. Are they similar to the Slenderman? I mean,
no, because the Slenderman is a creepypasta. Yeah, made in Europe as a photo competition.
Okay.
And it was the mythos behind it was that it would take children.
Yeah.
And it would send them into a purgatory-like place, and it would absorb their life forces.
Because I know the video we watched today with the...
We were watching Night Minds, Every Man Hybrid and Tribal 12 explained.
Shout out to them. We were watching their videos, and I remember in one of them, that kid Evan or whatever was seen in a video far away from where they were.
Yeah,
running through the video, and that kind of reminded me when you told me that.
Because Slenderman also messes with electricity and camera equipment.
And that kind of reminded me of what you said, that your sister, whoever saw you outside when you weren't. It's just like, whoa. You have to stop and think like, what?
But she didn't see me that entire day. She didn't know what I was wearing. And it was the same clothes that I was wearing when I walked out. Yeah.
See, that's what I mean. That's so bizarre that, it was seen like that. And, of course, you always got to be a little skeptic and say, yeah, well, the human brain and the human's eye can mess with us. But to what degree? If that's the case, then is most stuff that we live in a lie, an illusion? Or what? Because, what, I've seen and heard some weird and crazy stuff that I can't explain.
I believe that we are part of a simulation.
Okay.
Like, we are of a digital landscape.
Yeah, kind of like a video game or something like that.
Well, even because if you think about it, do you believe in free will? Do you believe that you have a free of choice?
In a sense,
like
I want to say yeah, but at the same time, I have to say no. Realistically, I mean, if we want to fall down into the basics of law. I do want to follow the laws. Therefore, I don't do stuff that I want to do because
let's just say this: there is no law.
If there's
no law, you don't even know what all that is, but you have all the knowledge ever.
Okay.
So ignoring law and justice, right and wrong, because right and wrong is made by your mental state of it.
Well,
determine what right and wrong is.
See, that's the thing, is to me right and wrong. So I want to give an example. See, the thing is, when we talk about free will, what I want to do in life is I want to do what our old ancestor did, is adventure and find a piece of land and live on it. Whatever land they find, they live on it, they stay there, they work on it, whatever. But in most governmental law, that's illegal. You cannot do that without permits and payment and all this exponential unnecessaries to actually get that. So when you ask about free will, I say yes and no, because if there were no laws,
if there was no
I would be able
governmental
to go do this.
System that would tell you otherwise. But
then there's also the thing of the right and wrong.
You got the morale, and then what you've learned based from your parenting, religious standpoints, which conflicts with what you choose to do.
Well, what I mean with the right and wrong is, to me, living off the land shouldn't be questioned right or wrong. To me, it's right, it's natural. But saying something like, if there were no laws and someone said, okay, I'm gonna go kill a bunch of people and rob a bank and do a bunch of bad stuff, to me, at that right and wrong point, that's when they're choosing to do wrong. I don't know if that would be more of a moral restriction on yourself.
It's really a moral restriction, because you could, like I said, a psychopath doesn't know what right to wrong is. He knows what he wants.
Yeah.
And it's what he's going to get.
Yeah, which is, they think about murder as psychopath. Murder, killing is such an easy thing, and that's why it's scary. But what really makes a psychopath is their mentality, where, what they're doing is wrong in our eyes, but in their eyes, it's not.
It's not even It's not a moral compass.
Yeah, it's not even a moral compass. It's just a thing. It's their either fantasy or pleasure that they do.
It's like they know what the rules are, like what we abide by.
Yeah, but to them we're wrong.
It's not even wrong. they don't even it's not even accepting. They know what the rules are. Accepted. It's just they're gonna do what they want.
Yeah.
And
they don't have that moral confinement where they sit there and say, you know, what the law or even moral codes add up to it.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. That definitely does make sense. Is
like,
your guitar going?
Oh, I could.
Do you want to do a little break session while I go use the restroom?
Oh yes, we will start a little break session.
We don't know how many minutes it's gonna be, but we're gonna do a little a break right here.
Okay, we're all good. We're gonna play some.
We'll leave the screen. We're gonna have Fate on his what is that called? What kind of guitar?
It is my Epiphone Thunderhorse.
Epiphone Thunderhorse.
The 6-string.
We will be back.
Oh, not even going there?
We are back. Thanks for holding on for a little break. I had to use the restroom and kind of take a little break. Well, we've been on the air for about an hour and almost 10 minutes now. I think we're going to wrap it up. You know, we started out with the Kap-dWa and led off into ghost stories and tales, but, you know, it all kind of ties into the same thing. You know, if you really think about it, all these myths and legends and cryptozoology and cryptids, and they had to start from somewhere. You know, it wasn't just a little bird in the air that came by and whispered it in someone's ear. I mean, that could have been how it happened.
It could be a creation of thought to like...
I know I always... I make a point to a lot of religious beliefs, and I grew up Christian, had Catholic family, Mormon family, even family from the Middle East. You know, with the Quran, and I always tell them, look, anyone could have written anything at any point in time, just like with the cryptids. You know, we have to have that little skepticism, but at the same time, you know, when you've actually been blessed, I guess, with these experiences, it's almost a little bone chilling because you can't really explain it, but at the same time you want to, and you try to, and either you get it or you don't get it. You know, whoever you're talking to, if you don't get it, that means that you haven't educated yourself in the thousands and thousands of people that share their experiences, and you got to think about the people that don't.
Well, you got to also think like maybe they don't ask the right questions to what you believe in or what you know.
Yeah, exactly.
There's always,
you know, just because, you know, if there were giants, so what? That doesn't mean you have to question everything you know and know. That just means you should probably maybe think outside the box a little bit and expand your box. maybe tape another pizza box to your box.
Well, I think there's only one question that the audience needs to know.
And what's that?
And that would be what our next episode is going to be about.
Our next episode is going to be about one of my favorite topics other than Bigfoot and El Chupacabra. We're going with a little bit of an aquatic feature here. We're going to go with the megalodon. Now, if you don't know what the megalodon is, it's a gigantic version of the great white shark. And with that, we're also going to be maybe talking about the black shark, maybe the black demon, and maybe the thunderbird. And that's going to be episode 4. We're going to try to do that this Wednesday.
Yeah, we're gonna do it this Wednesday, ranging either between 5 and 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah, we're gonna go with that, and that's about all you're gonna find out from us right now. It has been a gracious hour and so, chatting and talking and sharing a little bit of information and history with you guys. We hope that you've enjoyed this show, and hopefully you stick around to endure our future shows. Anything else you want to say to that, Fate?
I'd like to say, you guys have a wonderful, creepy night. Oh my god, the RV just shook. Like, right now, we're experiencing some paranormal difficulties.
Yeah, and paranormal difficulties.
And we are going to leave it at that. Hopefully next episode we don't turn into ghosts, and hopefully we do.
It was worth it. It had part of it.
We'll figure out how to turn on our equipment later on.
It was a little maybe entertainment for our guests and hosts. We're the hosts.
Are we?
What would we call them? The fans.
Metalheads?
Metalheads. To our metalheads out there.
To our cryptoids.
Well, this has been Patron Thor and
Fate 2250, and we are saying Auf Wiedersehen
and adios. Have a good night.